A boy is seen crossing the traffic signal. He thinks someone told him about the world before he was born, so the world before the black hole appeared was a normal world. Just as the boy is about to cross the road, he encounters a black hole and gets scared. All the people are seen getting stuck in the black hole. He thinks that the black hole is still increasing in size and that its size is unprecedented. The old force has already tried responding, but the sheer numbers are disrupting the rescue of the citizens. This story is about an abnormal world. The Earth black hole is a black gate that communicates with another world. It appeared on top of the sky, the ocean, the ground, and anywhere else on the planet. And from the black holes, life forms that were not humans emerged. The invaders started massacring humans, and when the world started turning into a living hell, a special species showed up. Telekinesis, utterance, frost, and lightning were among the various powers that people could use. Immortals were people who would not die even if their arms were severed or their organs pierced. Shapeshifters were people who could transform into different shapes, such as bears or wolves, and mages were ordinary people who could use special skills. When metahumans fought back against the black hole's enemies, the world found peace again, and the year the gate appeared was dubbed the Terrible Year. As the situation ended, people's attention went to the special species. It was said that they have dangerous molecules, so quarantine and management were necessary. The fear of them caused a schism between special and normal humans. Through that process, immortals came to belong to the government, and the shapeshifters conspired with a worldwide company called Psionic. Metahumans formed their own organization and concealed themselves with magic. Present day, 20 years after the Terrible Year, they are still somewhere, hiding the fact that they are a special species living amongst normal people. A man tells a boy that he is an immortal, which shocks the boy. The man says that he himself is immortal, so his blood should have passed on to him. The boy asks him why he is suddenly telling this while buying spring onions and in the middle of a supermarket. The man tells the boy not to tell his mother, as she doesn't know this either. He says that immortal blood will awaken on one's 24th birthday, and as the boy was born tonight around 11 p.m., he will become an immortal. It turns out the guy who is about to become an immortal is called Gwang-ik. The man tells the boy not to tell his mother, as she doesn't know that he is that kind of person, and if she finds out, he might get divorced. The man and the boy are father and son. The father thinks his son is strong enough, as immortals are usually born with low strength. He reveals to his son that he has kept another secret since he discovered he was immortal. Gwang-ik's father gives garlic to his wife, and they both kiss. Gwang-ik then comes to know that his mother is a shapeshifter and can also do the devil's tail. His mother says that he is also a shapeshifter, and he will awaken at age 18 and probably start tonight. His mother says it's a secret from his father and says not to tell him. Gwang-ik feels that he has quite special parents, as his father is an immortal and her mother is a shapeshifter, but he wonders why they are both hiding their identities from each other. Following this, Gwang-ik is seen lying on his bed, thinking that it will soon be 11 p.m. and that, according to his father, he will awaken as an immortal at that time. He recalls asking his father if it would hurt when he awoke. His father responds that it was fine with him. He felt his blood suddenly warm up and then cool down. He says that as soon as he felt a little cold, his 5 senses became a lot sharper than before. Gwang-ik thinks that he felt like dying when he was awakening as a shapeshifter. His father tells him that immortal blood is thicker than human blood. Gwang-ik asks his father if it is possible to awaken as an immortal when he has already awakened as a shapeshifter. After this, he goes to sleep. Gwang-ik is seen shaking and thinking that his father said it wouldn't hurt. The world before had no invaders or black holes. No one knew people like metahumans or immortals existed. It was just a normal world. This story is about his abnormal life in an ordinary world. Gwang-ik is seen standing in front of the mirror, believing that all he has done for the past 2 years is awaken. Suddenly, his mother comes, which surprises him. She asks him what it is like to be a shapeshifter, and he says that he has a lot more energy than before and that his hearing and thinking are more sensitive too. He questions his mother about why she didn't warn him that he would experience so much pain upon awakening, as he could have mentally prepared himself. He says that he doesn't want to experience pain like that ever again. After this, Gwang-ik is seen pulling his cheeks and thinking that it still hurts the same even though he is an immortal now. He thinks that nothing has really changed. Appearance and sense-wise, he can see well in the dark, and his hearing has become super sensitive. He wonders if he will be able to hide all this well. Gwang-ik is seen having breakfast and thinking that shapeshifters need more energy than the average person. His father then tells him to study for civil service exams, which both Gwang-ik and his mother find surprising. He says that there was a good opportunity that came his way, but his mother says that he should go to college as he is 21 now. His father replies by saying that skills are more important than college and a civil service job would be nice as he is one too after all. His mother says she doesn't want him to go to Gwishiwan so soon because Gwishiwan is a small accommodation for those studying for the civil service exam. On the other hand, Gwang-ik thinks that immortals usually have government-related jobs, so he is trying to send him to those positions, but his mother probably has a different plan. After that, Gwang Ik is seen doing exercise at the gym, and his mother tells him that shapeshifters have 3 times the strength of a normal person, and apart from physical strength, shapeshifters are also strong in instinct. She tells him that there will be many times when he will be controlled by his instincts. She says that it's a must to train to control your instincts, so she wants him to go to college and get hired at a company. She tells him that his grandfather has connections in an industry that works with shapeshifters, and he will be able to get basic training for shapeshifters there. After this, both the parents are seen asking Gwang Ik about what he wants to become. He expresses a desire to attend UDT, the Korean equivalent of SEAL. His mother gets mad, knowing that he wants to go to the military, while his father thinks that it's not a bad option. While agreeing with him, his father says that he can have a fine life after training and assignment, and he anyway had to go to the military, so it's better if he goes as an officer. His mother says that he can go, but first he has to attend college, which shocks his father as he will not be preparing for the civil service exam. His father believes he is being sponsored by Eduel, a well-known Korean academy for certificate preparation such as the civil service exam. His father then tells him that going as an officer in the military will be a bonus point. Gwang Ik agrees to give the exam, and his father then talks about his tuition. He then travels to Hwaseong, Gyeonggi, to take tuition, wondering what is so special about his teacher that he must travel so far to learn from him. Gwang Ik is then seen reading the news about the white hole on his phone. It is said that the Earth is a hole, and the gate appeared not long after the International Government Coalition Old Force was formed. If a black hole is where you come out, then a white hole is where you enter. That is, they could enter the invaders' world known as the other side, where there are new metals that they do not have here. As it is abundant in resources, it is home to new plants and animals. After reading this, Gwang Ik believes that Earth's black holes are now a thing of the past, but humanity is still fighting for new resources. He further thinks that shapeshifters are mostly sent to such fights, and his mother didn't want him to be involved, so he compromised. He then thinks that originally he didn't want to be a soldier because he wanted to do something better. After this, Gwang Ik's tutor is seen talking to his father about his exam and says that he will really educate him and won't go easy on him. Gwang Ik meets his tutor, and he asks him why he is built so well since he is an immortal. To which, Gwang Ik replies, it's probably because he has mixed blood. His tutor wonders how he can have mixed blood because immortals have thick blood. Gwang Ik then replies by saying that his mother also has thick blood. After following his father's words, Gwang Ik arrives at a place that is a mountain deep inside the countryside near Hwaseong in Gyeonggi province. He asks his tutor if there is a temple there because they are approaching a mountain, but he denies it. He then notices wood and knives and gets surprised. Gwang Ik's tutor inquires if he has awakened and tested anything. He replies by saying that he tried cutting his wrists with a cutter knife, but the wounds healed pretty fast. His tutor then talks about healing properties with him and says that health and sense can raise his healing power. Gwang Ik then inquires about studying and says that it's done with pens and paper and not by running through knives. But then, his tutor tells him that he is going to apply to the Immortal Special Forces, which surprises Gwang. The tutor then tells him that it's similar to being a soldier in the army, and Gwang Ik thinks about UDT. He then agrees, thinking that he might be able to do what he wants to do after this. The tutor then tells him to run through the blades, and after that, Gwang Ik starts bleeding in pain. But his tutor says that he has amazing healing power and tells him to make the wounds bigger as his regeneration gets faster every time he heals from an injury. He goes on to say that Gwang Ik must experience shock because, after the first time, his pain threshold will rise. His tutor then wonders why Gwang Ik is not getting a shock and asks him if it doesn't hurt. Gwang Ik, on the other hand, thinks that before becoming an immortal he was a shapeshifter, and since shapeshifters have strong bodies, something like this will never give him a shock, even if he does it for a lifetime. His tutor then tells him that if he can run 50 meters in 6 seconds, he will pass the blade setup training. The tutor asks him to run again, as he didn't time it. After this, they start the second training. His tutor gives him a dog collar and asks him to put it around his neck. He tells him that it's for breath hold training. The tutor tells him that when he presses the button, his neck will be strangled. Gwang Ik is seen getting irritated by all this and asks if he can go underwater to hold his breath. But his tutor motivates him. He asks the tutor about the condition to pass the training, and he says that Gwang Ik should endure for at least 5 minutes and tells him not to undo the necklace by force or steal the remote unless he wants a hole in his chest. The breath hold training starts, and Gwang Ik tries to endure his breath as much as possible. Suddenly, the necklace breaks off, which shocks the tutor. Gwang Ik feels like he almost died from enduring and tells the tutor that they are not doing it again, just because he didn't pass out. He says that he is sure he endured it for 5 minutes, but his tutor tells him that he endured the test for 12 minutes and 47 seconds, which shocks Gwang Ik, as he thinks that the previous record was for 8 minutes. His tutor then tells him to rest as he needs to be healthy and feeds him food. Just as Gwang-ik is about to sleep, he notices there are no lights and asks his tutor about the same, and he says that it's training to kill his sense of touch, as a good sense of touch makes him feel unsettling sensations much more than others. Later, his tutor gets surprised at seeing him fall asleep so fast. The next day, Gwang-ik and his tutor have breakfast, during which he asks the tutor about the next training. His tutor says that the next training is cliff diving. He tells him that arms are the shield of an immortal and then explains the whole concept. He then tells Gwang that he should be more careful with a knife than a gun, and he must also be wary of claymores and mines. After that, Gwang-ik finishes all the training and goes home the next day. He then talks to his father about the training while sitting in the bus, but suddenly someone calls his father for help and he hangs up the phone. Gwang-ik then thinks that he will take a shower when he gets home, play some PS5, eat a yummy dinner made by his mom, and sleep in his room without mosquitoes for around 12 hours. He thinks that it's the perfect rest plan. Just as he gets home, his plan gets shattered as his mother tells him that he is going to study for 2 nights as she has found a teacher to make him study for college. Gwang gets an uneasy feeling about this. His mother tells him that she will pick him up in 2 days and says that being intelligent is not enough because he also needs a strong body. In that moment, Gwang realizes that what is awaiting him is never going to be some college studying. Gwang reaches a gym and meets his tutor. His tutor tells him that his body will be wasted if he only uses his brain, but Gwang thinks that he can't tell the truth here. He thinks that he embraces his mother's nurturing philosophy and values, and if he goes against her, she will beat the shit out of him. His tutor then gives him a device for a bunch of measurements and asks him to put one on his wrist and one on his ankle. She then asks him to run on the treadmill in order to test him. The tutor finds him lazy and trash and tells him not to stop. She says that she will rebirth him from head to toe. The tutor makes Gwang-ik run for 14 hours, 4 minutes, and 30 seconds. He thinks even the immortal training had resting times. The tutor then tells him to memorize the stretching as they will do it later. Gwang-ik is seen running as well as timing the whole exercise, and he also memorizes the stretching video in front of him. He believes that the training is difficult but that he can handle it. Gwang-ik tries to remember what his tutor told him about blocking senses. He thinks there are 4 different tasks, and putting aside a sense for timing, performing the other tasks isn't very hard. Gwang-ik completes the running for 24 hours. After this, he and his tutor both start stretching. He tries to copy his tutor but loses flexibility. His tutor tells him that they will increase the range of motion little by repeating the same stance, hence, they are ripping the muscles to increase the flexibility. Gwang-ik thinks that he has to endure a momentary pain and stretches his body, which shocks his tutor. Gwang-ik and his tutor both have some food. His tutor tells him that eating is training too, as it accumulates energy. Gwang-ik calls his mother at night and she tells him to train hard. He then realizes that an immortal's training is psychotic acts and a shapeshifter's training is ignorant. The next day, they both start weight training, and he thinks that the power of a shapeshifter is 3 times that of an average adult male. His tutor advises him to use his reflexes and that the priority for a shapeshifter should be body preservation. He believes that because he is immortal, he will be able to heal his broken bones and begins running with the weights. His 5 senses get enhanced as he starts running. He believes that most shapeshifters have insane reflexes because they aren't immortals who specialize in senses. The tutor tells him to run on a single line setup, which means walking on the wire. The tutor places a hard and strong mattress under the wire in case Gwang falls. She tells him to just fall rather than grabbing the wire, as doing so will rip his skin. Gwang-ik believes it is more difficult and complicated than the immortal training. The tutor makes him run the single line all day with the bar. After this, his mother picks him up and says that she can't watch his son go around getting beat up, that's why she sent him to training. He then asks his mother to teach him cooking, as he wants to become a sexy male cook. And his mother says to become sexy first by training hard. After a 4-day break, the stick teacher said that the training beforehand was simply basic training offered separately from the entry requirement. In other words, blade setup, feint endurance, and cliff diving are now mandatory courses. Gwang-ik is seen covered in blood while training and thinks that this course is still better since it ends quickly. The immortal training tutor tells Gwang that a perk of immortality is regeneration and says that it takes time to regenerate an amputated limb. His tutor says that this training is a continuation of the blade setup. After this, his tutor attacks Gwang with the blade as part of his training and says that the goal here is to avoid major injuries while taking minor ones instead. As Gwang gets hit by the blades, he starts bleeding, but then his tutor tells him that anemia is one of immortality's weaknesses. Gwang-ik asks him if immortals carry around blood packets for blood transfusions. After this, Gwang-ik makes spaghetti with meat sauce for himself and the tutor. His tutor tells him that cooking is also a type of training as it dulls the sense of taste. They both start the training again, and the tutor hits Gwang with the blade on his chest and says that it's time for organ regeneration training. He says that organ regeneration takes a long time, so basic strength training is mandatory. His tutor then talked about learning to hide his energy. Wang reaches for the shapeshifting training and a survival game 2 days later. His tutor is seen holding a modified gun made of gas and specialized bullets. She tells him to move while aiming at him. She tells him to try finding a cover, and if he can't, then he should try to run faster so that the tutor will not be able to aim properly. She advises him to run in a zigzag pattern rather than a straight line to avoid the bullet because he should not allow the other person to predict his movements. She tells him to concentrate on his muscles and change direction. She then tells him how to get hit in the right place. Wang Ik believes that training from both sides has taught him to avoid mobility loss, because the fighting styles of immortals and shapeshifters are adapted to their characteristics. He thinks neither has taught him how to fight but rather how to survive in whatever situation he may find himself in. He thinks that immortals need to be wary of weapons like knives that can inflict damage over a large radius. With guns, a shotgun is more dangerous than a rifle. On the other hand, shapeshifters welcome those who attack with knives. He thinks all he has to do is dodge and hit, as a shapeshifter's reflexes and strength allow such a response. He further thinks that shapeshifters cannot regenerate, so their movements are calculated with the intent of not getting hurt. Wang's tutor then tells him to run across the wire. Just as Wang is about to run, he senses a monster behind him and asks his tutor if she also sensed it. The tutor tells Wang that what he felt was wild bloodthirst, but he tells her not to do that again as it felt like his heart was going to burst. They then begin shapeshifting hell training. Wang Ik thinks that he has found a way to withstand the teacher's bloodthirst. He grasps the feeling with his 5 senses and uses the 6th sense to deal with it. Just like this, Wang's lessons continue to alternate between shapeshifter and immortal training is still akin to a punishment from hell. In addition to organ regeneration, he had to train with axes, spears, arrows, and even traps. One has to be especially careful around traps. He remembers his tutor telling him that once you step in a trap, it hurts terribly, and when the pain persists, the brain will have difficulty working. In shapeshifter training, Wang had to train with weighted belts and vests and add weight using sandbags to his wrists and ankles. He also continued to train by dodging bullets and walking across the wire, and he worked out his body with dumbbells at times. His father left for a 10-day business trip in the middle of his training. In his immortal training, Wang also learns how to wield conventional weapons and martial arts. His log teacher, on the other hand, teaches him how to shoot a gun. 2 months passed by just like that, and Wang Ik takes a week break after training. After this, Wang is seen standing in front of the mirror and thinking about why he doesn't have a girlfriend. He thinks that his standards are not that high, as he wants someone who is cute, mature, and alluring at the same time. He thinks that the girl should be smart and know what she wants to do. His father then asks him if Wang has a test tomorrow. Wang thinks that he was never meant to go to college as his path was already decided. He was crushed under the debris of a collapsed building 9 years ago when a great black hole called Hugh's Gate opened, but the moment he saw a man fighting the countless invaders, he decided he wanted to be like him. On the other hand, Wang's mom goes to meet his shapeshifting tutor, Kang Sul-hee. They then talk about irrational species and how a group of scientists tried to create grotesque monsters. The tutor tells his mother that he is an irregular. On the other hand, his father talks to the immortal tutor and asks about his son. He describes Wang as gifted and brilliant. Both tutors compliment him, and his parents are pleased. Wang Ik wakes up and asks about his father. His mother tells him that today is a special day as today is the civil service exam. His mother says in order to keep his energy and potential high, he needs to eat light food that has glucose in it. His mother worries about him failing the exam, but Wang feels confident, thinking that he is also an immortal. His mother says that if he fails, they will meet in a boxing ring. He starts listening to music while waiting for the lift. Suddenly, a girl comes up and says that he doesn't need to sing, with a face like that, when he plans to ask her out. It turns out the girl is known as Kang Hyeman. Wang tells her that it's not her concern, as he will not ask her out. She tries to flirt with Wang, but he moves out of the lift. She then asks him where he is going, to which he replies that he is going for his civil service exam. While waiting at the traffic signal, Hyeman tells him that she will leave for college next year and that she will attract a lot of guys there. But Wang tells her to study first. Wang Ik arrives early for the exam. A man then comes and asks for Wang's documents. After confirming his documents, he tells him to take the elevator to the 9th floor. There, a woman confirms his documents and directs him to the last room. It is the special testing center, and Wang wonders if it is soundproof as there will be blood splattering and a huge mess. Wang remains tense as he thinks that a knife could come out when he opens the door. He was surprised to see the room empty. A man with no hair is seen sitting in the room and asks him for his documents. Wang realizes that the man is bald for fashion. He gives his documents and ID to the man, and the man then directs him to desk number 48. Wang gets confused while thinking why there are chairs and tables. After a while, all the students are seen sitting in the room, and the examiner asks if anybody needs a pen. Wang feels something is wrong but cannot say anything about it. He sits in shock, as it is an actual exam with a pen and paper. Wang thinks that he has started preparing for the exam out of nowhere. He thinks that the tutoring for the exam was just a continuous blur of terrible suffering, but he gave it his all so that he could pass the exam. However, he feels like he started on the wrong foot. He then thinks that his last hope is gone. After this, he takes the pen from the invigilator and thinks that he is really going to take a written exam. Wang then notices that everyone in the testing center has above average looks, and some could even be idols. They then suddenly put partitions around Wang, which makes him think that these are for immortals with heightened senses, which is why he thinks the desks are so far. The invigilator then passes him the test paper. On reading the questions, Wang initially finds it hard to attempt but then notices that all the questions are related to the training he received. He then starts answering the questions and remembers whatever he has learned in his training. Wang starts solving all the problems turn by remembering all the concepts and experiences learned in the training. The test asks him how much immortals have used their bodies, and Wang thinks that he has basically gone to hell and come back now. Wang finishes the test 1 hour before, and the invigilator tells those who have finished to leave. Just as he steps out of the testing center, a bobbed-haired woman comes and makes him sign the test agreement. The test agreement says that if anyone breaks the agreement, they will be arrested by the old force, whether they are immortals or anything else. After this, the invigilator is seen reading Wang's answers from his answer sheet. He thinks that Wang's intellect could be useful. After 15 days, Wang comes to know that he passed the civil service exam, tells the news to his mother, and says that he scored the highest. Wang's father then comes back home with Korean beef, and the three of them eat and drink together to celebrate his win. His mother inquires about the department he will be going into, and his father says that Wang will probably start in a subordinate public enterprise under the Ministry of Public Administration and Security. Wang then starts wondering what work an immortal civil servant does and thinks that his father won't answer his questions properly. He asks his father for some tips for the interview, but he says that he doesn't know anything. Wang is seen wearing a suit and tie. Shortly after celebrating getting first place in the written exam, he receives a text message about the interview date. It was held in the same building as the written exam. His father refuses to tell him anything in the end. After this, Wang waits for the elevator, where he again meets Kang, and he asks her if she is talking to him. He tells her to go and study, as she is a high school senior. Kang compliments him on his suit. Wang is then seen waiting in the special employment interview waiting room, and on noticing other candidates, he thinks he should read more stories of interviews at a large corporation. He is then called for the interview. A red-haired man and the Nuna from before take his interview and start asking him questions like what inspired him to apply. There were more obvious questions and responses after that. After a few days, Wang's mother notices him fooling around too much and asks him if he has any plans today, to which he replies that he is going to do PEP, which means playing, eating, pooping, and sleeping. His mother then calls him out for a talk. She tells him that instincts are dangerous for shapeshifters, and bad things will happen if he is overcome by them. She then starts telling him the story about the werewolf howling at the full moon. She says that one shapeshifter couldn't hold in their instinct and cried to the moon one night, and it happened to be a full moon. She tells him to go and scream outside in case he is not able to hold in his desires. His mother tells him that there is a way to curb desires, which is through self-control and relief. She says that he can use extra energy with exercise and self-control, but the problem lies in relief. She tells him to make a girlfriend, as he will mold soon if he does not make one. It turns out Wang gets accepted as a result of his interview and is shocked to know the facilities provided by the government to him as a soldier. On being asked by his mother about what he wants to do for a bit, he realizes that he can't show this document to her. He then says that he intends to become the head of the Ministry of Public Administration and Security, but his mother thinks he is all talk and says that it would have been good if there had been a kid like him among the shapeshifter children. Wang thinks that it is good that he is mixed, as shapeshifters have to deal with instincts and immortals have to deal with heightened senses. He realizes that he has heard about shapeshifters whose instincts are especially aggressive and immortals who are extremely sensitive, but he is neither. He thinks that his instincts are at a level where he can take care of them by just using stuff online, like any normal 20-year-old. And as his immortal sensitivity is easy to dull, he is confident that he will do well wherever he is and with whomever he is with. After this, Wang is seen traveling on the plane and reaching the training academy. Wang is seen sitting in the bus, and he thinks that he can now enjoy the AC as it's summer now. The bus, nearly halfway filled with only immortals, was heading towards the location of the new employee orientation. Wang thinks that with his immortals' advanced 5 senses and intuition, he can feel who is pure-blooded and who is not. After this, he remembers what his father said to him about first impressions and making new friends. He remembers his father telling him that he had trouble sleeping. His father says if he continues to deal with insomnia while functioning like an adult in society, he will eventually figure out a way to control his senses. Or he can stay in the mountains for 3 years, training for it. Wang Ik then thinks that controlling the senses comes as easily as breathing. He thinks that shapeshifters can control all parts of their body's muscles, and controlling senses is similar to flexing his ears or just a part of his back muscle. On realizing this, he tries talking to his classmate, whom he thinks is a handsome prince. He comes to know that his classmate has seen him for the first time. He then tries talking to the girl sitting behind him, but finds her immature. The girl thinks that Gwang has zero observation skills and tells him that immortals are sensitive, which is why they are sitting on the edge by the window because the sunlight is bothersome. Whereas the ones chatting and snacking are all mixed groups, and Gwang thinks she is rude, but she is technically correct. Wang Ik then passes gas in the bus, and the girl thinks he is mannerless. A few hours after the gas spraying incident, the bus finally arrives at its destination. 2 boys named Kim Yohan and Bang Giddy try to talk with Gwang. He then comes to know that the place he has arrived at is a training camp. He then notices the red-haired Kand and the bob-haired Nuna, who are at the interview, standing in front of him in the training camp. He tells the candidates that for the next 3 months, each of them must give their all to grow. He says that he is already disappointed to see their shaky strength. After this, the instructor makes them run towards the tree in a race. Wang thinks that he adjusted quickly to the orientation that turned out to be a training camp. Wang Ik is seen remembering the words of his mother as his mother tells him not to reveal that he is a shapeshifter as it will be troublesome. His mother tells him that humans see a shapeshifter as a dangerous person, and Gwang says that he will make sure to keep it hidden in the future. After that, Gwang Ik is seen running the race and gets placed in the 14th place. The instructor then starts with other exercises like push-ups. One candidate abuses the machine while doing push-ups, which makes the instructor mad. Wang then hears the instructor break the candidate's arm as a part of his punishment and then tell him not to shout. The instructor then says that swearing will result in 2 minus points and yelling will result in 1 minus point. And the punishment starts with a bone fracture if anyone breaks a rule. The instructor then says that fighting without permission is 5 minus points. The instructor feels that it was not like this in his day. He then introduces himself as Lee Jangmo, and the candidates will call him Instructor Lee Jangmo. The lady says that Instructor Jangmo will be in charge of training the candidate's strength. The lady then introduces herself as Park Daram and says that she is the candidate's technique instructor. The third instructor then introduces himself as Kim Han and says that he will kill all, which means that he will teach everybody to manage their immortal bodies. The instructor then asks if anybody wants to give up now. They then welcome the newbies to hell and put 10 people in each room. They tell them to change into their uniforms and wait. Wang Ik then starts observing all the candidates. He observes that there are a total of 7 guys and 3 girls. He then thinks that they should have separated the girls and boys, and he hesitates to change it in front of everyone. The beautiful girl then says that everybody should abide by rules, and a guy says that personal hygiene is the bare minimum that everybody agrees to follow. Wang Ik thinks that he has to live with these people for a month, whether he hates them or not. After that, Wang Ik also agrees to the rules. Wang Ik is seen eating food, and the instructor tells them that there are 10 people in each room, and the people in one's room are roommates. He says that the group number is the same as their room number. He then asks the candidates to choose team leaders once they are done eating. A female candidate asks another candidate to choose the team leader, to which Gwang says that he doesn't think he is fit for the role, as the team leader should be patient and should be able to unite everyone. But she says that nothing is more important than blood here, so she thinks it's only right to ignore his opinion. After this, Gwang thinks that they will get training after lunch, but he is wrong as they received some equipment, like clothes and cheap boots, as there were hundreds of them. After a shower, they did some rest, and then dinner was already ready. The instructor then says that they will have a short training session, and then it's light out. All the candidates are seen looking at the screen, where another instructor asks everyone the name of their company. The instructor on the screen then gives the name of the company as HWARM Telecommunications. He says that the training they are going through is to pick regular staff for HWAT. He says that is a government-aided company, and they are not civil servants, but they work for the nation. On listening to this, Gwang wonders if his father called it a civil service exam because of his mother. The trainer then tells them that their hiring standards nowadays are too lax, and back in the day, they couldn't even dream of being hired unless they ran through knives. He then asks the candidates to work hard in order to not die after being hired. The lady instructor then comes on the screen and says that it's to help you all use your immortal powers properly. After that, Gwang goes to bed for sleep and thinks that it's very comfortable. He then comes to know that his roommates cannot sleep because they are very sensitive and their emotions are heightened. He then gives a neck slice to everyone and sends them to Dreamland, as immortals cannot die from neck slices. That day, Group 3 slept very well. It was very busy from the second day on. The first period consisted of a boomer instructor, and he ordered all the candidates to run. They all learn about basic strength training, running, and lifting weights. The second period consisted of Bob Nuna, where she tells the weak points of an immortal like Chin, and the candidates learn close quarters combat training. The third period consists of the Candle Man, who makes everyone learn the immortal tradition of the blade run. All the candidates get shocked when they learn that they have to run through 3 centimeters of blades. A week later, Gwang-ik notices something weird in the room's atmosphere. On asking, the other roommates tell him that last night, our team leader was not able to sleep, so he went out and fought with guys from next door, who then beat him up. After this, a bunch of boys come, and everybody thinks they are again coming for the team leader, but it turns out they ask for Yu Gwang-ik. Gwang-ik thinks that his team leader sold out his name, but it turns out that the guys also want to dream of him. They tell him that they also want to sleep, as he has heard that everyone in his room sleeps well. Gwang-ik then gives all the members of Group 1 neck slices as they want, and the next morning, Group 1's leader becomes friendly with Gwang. He tells him that he has really got some skills, as last night was really awesome. After that, the training continues. The instructor tells them that they are not improving and asks them to leave the warm-up and do some real exercise. An overweight candidate runs but then gets tired and sits by a tree. Gwang notices him and asks if he is not going to run, to which the candidate replies that he is not going to make it. Gwang then quotes something from the Slam Dunk. He tells him to become a man who doesn't know what growing up is. He then tells him that he will help and asks him to make it till the end. Both Gwang and his friend are late, and the instructor gives them 5 minus points. He then tells his friend not to worry, as they will make it in tomorrow. Then, in the changing room, Gwang's roommate tells him to put the team leader to sleep, but he says that the team leader refuses every time. He then notices something wrong with Giddy Hyung and asks his roommate. The roommate tells him that Giddy met the little princess, who is also their roommate, and she talked rudely with him and left. From that moment onwards, he is like that. It turns out the girl's name is Woo Miho. Giddy thinks that she is her type. After this, everyone asks Gwang to put them to sleep by giving them neck slices. Gwang then thinks that he has to control his strength depending on their condition. He thinks that it might take at least an hour or even longer. He put everybody to sleep and then noticed the group leader and was surprised that he also didn't want to sleep today. After a while, he got better at his lullaby, and the instructors didn't even stop him. As Insomnia has created this scene of teamwork, most trainees went to sleep with his help, and he became famous among the trainees. He got various nicknames, and eventually people started calling him Neck Gwang. All the candidates are seen studying on their tablets. The instructor tells them that those who have invaded this place from the black hole are known as invaders. He tells everyone that it's been 20 years since the black hole first appeared, and during that time various new kinds of invaders have come. He tells the candidates that they are using the numbering system to categorize them. He then says that the first one was named number 1, and the higher their number, the more recently they have made an appearance. He further tells us that even immortals can die if they don't guard themselves properly. He then talks about the named and says that the named are creatures that have been given a special name, and then he starts talking about the Blue Knight. He says that the Great Black Hole appeared in the Giant Gate incident. It killed about 500 armed fighters. It has a governor craft on both feet and 2 metal wings, and its speed can reach 150 kilometers per hour. Gwang-ik starts getting the invaders' education and training. He comes to know that Heat Telecommunications, as a part of the Ministry of Public Administration and Security, is a company that goes into white holes and takes care of invaders that come out of black holes. It's said that they have reached a plateau, but the invaders still pose a threat to this society. Therefore, they need people to take care of the invaders, and Heat Telecommunications is just one of them. Gwang thinks a high salary isn't just for anyone and feels that he was glad to learn all this. He thinks that now he doesn't have to go to the UDT or the army anymore. His instructor then tells them to run away if they see the names, as they are a nightmare. Gwang, on the other hand, starts wondering about the reason his father sent him here. After reaching the halfway point in the orientation, new trainings were added. The lecture on invaders by the boomer instructor was one of them, and the second was the bob-haired Nuna's lecture on immortal support items. After this, the bob-haired Nuna is seen showing a blood jack to the candidates. She says that whenever the soldiers are in danger, they just have to open this and stab it into their arm, as it will find a vein on its own to give them blood. She then tells me that this jack is made by mixing a certain ratio of an awakening agent and a tranquilizer and adding crushed eucalyptus leaves. She further tells them that on stabbing it, the air pressure will puncture their skin and the medicine will enter to heighten their bodily abilities. She then says that they call this a battle potion, and its official name is BBB. She then talks about its addiction and withdrawal symptoms. The potion was developed in Germany, and it's called either the Botan's Blessing or Odin's Blessing, and it's one of the most advanced cocktails. She then talks about other potions. Lastly, the candle instructor had them train with guns. After that, they repeated running, weight training, techniques, and durability strengthening. Wang Ik continues to help. Kang Purium and other friends also joined to help as they adjusted to the chaotic lifestyle. Eventually, everyone became strong enough to easily pass the AM run. Even Kang Purium was able to do it alone. Just like that, a month passed by and all the training was done. The instructor tells them that no one has flunked out and congratulates them on becoming employees of H-Warm. The other instructor announces the result of the orientation and tells them that it's calculated based on their performance during training, and its tests, and says that they will all be put in different departments depending on their ranking, and that there is also a reward for the top 3. It turns out Kai Hyaman comes in 3rd, Jiang Kinam comes in 2nd, and Guang thinks that though he is from the purest of the purest bloodlines and is always ranked highly in training, he seems desperate. Guang then thinks that Wu Miho would be there in the first place and thinks about her personality. After this, the instructor calls Guang Ik, gives him a number, and says to call him once he walks out from here. After that, all the employees bid each other farewell. At night, when the boys are eating food, the president of H-Warm Telecommunications, Nam Liang Jin, walks into their room. So that is it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. So if you like the video, then hit that like button and leave a comment for the next part. Most important, subscribe and press the bell icon for notification. I will meet you in the new video. Till then, bye.